Good morning, Matt Waldman. I'm Bob Harris. He's Matt Waldman. We're gonna feel it and fuck it. There's a lot going on. Okay, there's nothing going on. What are we? Who are we trying to kid, Matt? It's the quiet time, or hopefully quiet time, between the end of mini camps and the start of training camps. We're about 10 days, 12 days away from the first. And they open earlier every year, Matt. I'm very upset by that. Used to be you could wait until August. Now it's like the middle of July. But they'll be coming up soon. But for right now, it's pretty quiet, so we can sort through some things. Tell us what's going on in the world of the rookie scouting portfolio and mattwaldman.com, sir.
Well, this morning, if you check your inbox and you're an RSP subscriber, you got what I will call the first update in July since I missed June. So I'm giving you two updates and two newsletters in July. You're getting a free look at the June update from the RSP Dynasty rankings and projections. You're also getting a preliminary scouting report on Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers, who's going to be one of the top tight ends in this class, most likely. And then an oldie but a goodie on just reminding people that I'm keeping there as a kind of evergreen on how to watch training camp and how to kind of look at these spring practices with some perspective. If you're a subscriber to the Dynasty Rankings and Projections, the next update will be available in early August. I'll have two updates in August. I'm putting things together with that. Of course, if you buy it right now, you'll get the June update. But it takes about 24 hours between the time you buy it to when you actually get the access email. That way, I have time to work. And so when you know, that way, you know, when you email me, know what's going on, you'll probably get an automated message.
You will get an automated message, 100% sure. And
Yeah.
also, this sounds suspiciously like I'm being called out for not having bought mine yet. I'm going to. I've been busy with something. You'll hear more about that in the coming days, people.
Look over his right shoulder or your left if you're watching him, and you'll see that he's putting out another one of those things, but for a different publication.
Maybe.
Yeah, but one with a bunch of guys who like football. Yeah.
Probably that.
Something along those lines.
We like football too. By the way, mattwaldman.com. Go order things, pay for them, buy them. Buy every single thing that Matt Waldman produces. You'll be very happy. Follow his work at Football Guys as well. You can follow mine. Also, I'm at Football Guys. And starting this very evening, tonight, Monday, July 7th. On
At
Sirius
the
XM.
Omni.
No. Monday. Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. The football diehards are back. Mike Dempsey and myself. Every weeknight through the start of the season, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Don't think it changes that much when the season starts. Then we go to 7 days a week. We'll start doing the Saturday nights on NFL radio that we've done the last number of years, 5 years or so. 3-hour show every Saturday night. And then the pregame show I'll be doing with Jeff Mans, as always, as I've been doing for, like 12, 13 years now. The Sirius XM Fantasy pregame show from 11 to 1 on Sundays. So 7 days a week of Harris to go with the feeling and the fucking and all the other things that we're doing.
You, Mike Dempsey, are like the fantasy football tag team equivalent of like Bruiser Brody and Dick Murdoch. You know, and if you don't know who that is, you should take a look at those guys on YouTube if you're a wrestling fan. That's
Very
all I got to
handsome
say.
There are no Von Erichs, but let's not get off subject here. Let's stick with the football. Let's dive into some notes of interest, some things we're hearing and not hearing, and are we believing them? Very good points you make, Matt, about what we should be paying attention to throughout the course of OTAs and into training camp. We're going to be looking down the drinking straw. We're going to see these moment by moment, minute by minute things, and you're going to see ADPs move based on a single cut somebody made in practice. Don't be that guy that makes those moves with those people. Step back a little bit. So we're going to step back and look at some players we think are interesting. In Tennessee, a lot of new stuff going on there. A new quarterback, the first pick overall in the draft, Mr. Cam Ward. Also a new receiver, a veteran wide receiver there, moves over from Seattle, Tyler Lockett. Matt, could he be the wide receiver one in Tennessee this year? Feel it or fuck it?
I'm kind of feeling it. I know that Calvin Ridley is considered the top guy, but Calvin Ridley has kind of devolved into a hit and miss kind of deep threat who hits just enough with the number of targets that he's going to get to be one of the, to be a wide receiver too in fantasy, sometimes a low end wide receiver too, because he drops passes. He gets injured. He has some issues sometimes from time to time that has kind of prevented him from repeating his peak year in Atlanta. Now, Tyler Lockett, on the other hand, he's in his early 30s already, People are thinking 2 years in a row where he hasn't gained 1,000 yards. Now he's on a new team. He must be declining. But if you listen to DK Metcalf, he talked about how Ryan Grubb's coaching regime just kind of said, yeah, sure, go ahead and, give us scouting reports on what you guys watched on film like he used to give to Pete Carroll. But unlike Pete, who accepted them happily and made adjustments when their veteran receivers said, hey, look at this coverage here. This is what they're doing pre-snap. We can get some easy plays out of this. Ryan Grubb just ignored them and just had them run dumb routes in the coverage that could basically handle it easily. On top of that, Tyler Lockett said, hey, listen, you know what? They wanted to really get Jackson Smith and Jigba involved. Understandable. They wanted to keep DK happy. So I was fine with taking a back seat to try and help the team. Now I'm in a new place and I'm looking forward to getting targets. And I think that just being 2 years removed from 1,000 yards, and he's had 4 or 5 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. Wouldn't be surprising to me if he's not the reception leader or the yardage leader in Tennessee this year, because I think he's probably the best route runner of between himself and even Ridley, though Ridley has more downfield upside.
Yeah, I think when you look at the depth chart there's not a lot going on at the wide receiver position.
Right.
Treylon Burks, we don't know what he's going to be. Van Jefferson, we have a pretty good idea of what he is. And I think the rest of the crew, Tamari DK is a rookie coming in, Alec Alamayor, like a lot of unproven guys, except for James Prochet, who looks very proven to me. Proven not to be able to do much but return kicks. Xavier Restrepo connected to Cam Moore. So, but yeah, I think so I still think it's going to be Ridley, but he was super inefficient last year, got a ton of targets, caught very few of them, or not nearly enough of them. Didn't have any touchdowns. Nick Westbrook-Akini was the touchdown weirdo last year, probably in part because Calvin Ridley wasn't scoring them. So maybe there's some room for positive touchdown regression. I'm not going to go with wide receiver 1. I think that's still going to be Ridley, but fair arguments. And maybe, I think we all kind of think of Lockett maybe as a little bit locked up because of last year. You explained it pretty well, why maybe that's not the case of him being washed up. It was just a case of them moving in a different direction.
You can get him after the 15th round right now.
That is true. That is true. So, yeah. So I don't think wide receiver 1, but I think maybe the preferred value, although Ridley's going on the cheap as well. So it's not like you're overpaying for either. But I'm with you. Maybe a little better investment late in the draft. Jarquez Hunter in Los Angeles now. We're not scared of Kyron Williams anymore. Blake Corum apparently not a threat. Is it possible Blake Corum's on the way out of L.A., Matt? Field or fuck it?
I mean, it's possible. I'm feeling it with Sean McVay. He could probably just say, let's cut ties. But I think that Corum is a better running back than people realize. And I wouldn't be surprised at all as once we get into camp and early in the season that all the hype's going to be about Jarquez Hunter because of the speed, because of the contact balance, the promise that he has. But maybe because of that Auburn system where he ran a lot of gap plays, he might not be as well versed in some of the outside zone work that you see Blake Corum have another year of experience in. And oftentimes these West Coast offensive coaches, what I appreciate about them is that they have learned to realize that running back practice doesn't give you as much as running backs performing in game situations. So I don't think that the running back situation is decided beyond Kyron Williams until about week 3 or week 4 of the season. And I would stay flexible with that. It could be very possible that Jarquez Hunter comes into the season as the RB2, and by the end of the month, Blake Corum winds up overtaking him, just in the same way that Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson were oftentimes early on the starters, and then within a game or two, you're like, oh, they're no longer even mattering.
Both these running backs, it's interesting. We're going to talk about a lot of running backs in this price range today. Tells you what time of year it is. They're both going in the 16th round. Blake Corum going as running back 63, Jarquez Hunter as running back 64. So, the investment community in fantasy football is pretty equally split on them, it would seem. And you wonder, are they ready to move on like that after just a year of not really needing them? Are we going to see the full dose of Williams either way, so it doesn't matter? Then you're trying to pick a handcuff. I think Well, you're not paying a handcuff premium, right? You're not paying that high premium as someone who's going to be a plug-and-play threat. So I can take my chances in round 16 on either of them. I'm probably still taking the chance on Corum, but also probably not taking a chance on either of them with some of the other names here that we're going to look at, Matt. So let's look at one of those right now. Brashard Smith is going as running back 67, about a round or two, about a round later than those guys. How much more would you rather have Brashard Smith than either of those two guys? And is it possible that Smith is getting too much love, or is that the right price?
I think right now it's the right price, but I think he's about to. I've already seen enough people talking about. I've heard our buddy, happy birthday yesterday to Sigmund Bloom, talk
50.
about how that 50. Look at that, joining the club. I know we're moving our way up there, but but Brashard Smith was a guy. I think he mentioned that it's a player he doesn't want to leave his draft without, and I can understand as an individual running back in a vacuum. And the skills that he has, I could see that, especially in a dynasty format. But in a redraft format, I'd rather wait and pay a little bit more after we see Elijah Mitchell get cut, or maybe Kareem Hunt get cut. One of those guys has to leave, I think, or be hurt for an extended period of time for me to feel excited about Brashard Smith as a bargain at time, because Andy Reid, also a West Coast purveyor, has always been known to kind of tinker all season long with his running backs unless he just has an obvious dude. And until he gets that obvious dude, he tinkers a bit. So I think Brashard Smith will get opportunities in a situational role, but it will be one of those that's few and far between and frustrates fantasy GMs unless we have that said injury, or they install him as the running back to literally by like mid-August.
Right. So what people are, we're looking at something. This is we've seen this movie before syndrome, right? Like we've seen Brett Veach pick a running back in the 7th round who turned into a thing. And his name is Isaiah Pacheco. Right. So there's that, like, praying in the back of my mind. We see Brashard Smith come in, a little bit of a smaller guy. Well, he's not at the 200-pound mark. I know there are people out there who use models for things who will tell you that's not big enough, Matt Waldman. I would tell you that Jahmyr Gibbs has an argument against that theory. But nonetheless, I think you're right. He's kind of buried at the moment. Things can change. We don't know what Isaiah Pacheco is going to be. I think right now Isaiah Pacheco is a piece I'm drafting heavily because he's a cheap starter, people. I'm easy. I'm looking for clear paths to workload. I don't
Bob
know
Harris is easy.
Well, that's true. But we look at early last year, the 19 carries to open the season, the 15 carries the game he broke his leg. There was a plan going in. I don't know why that plan would not remain the same if he's healthy. That's a question we'll have to see answered in training camp. He says he is. We talked about it a week or two ago, back to his, 4.37 speed, 216 pounds. All the combine numbers are back. We'll see, but I'm with you. I think Brashard Smith is a guy that, again, not cost prohibitive. If you want to take a chance and you want to play that, that Brett Veach possibility 7th round, sure. He said that. He goes, hey, you can get running backs in the 7th round. And then he goes out and he gets running backs in the 7th round. So if you want to play that gamble, it's not an unreasonable gamble. I just don't know that in this case it's really well set to play out. A little later, a little bit later. Let me look up the numbers here. Is it how much later? Yeah, it's about running back 69. So we have Corum at 63, Jarquez Hunter at 64, we have Brashard Smith at 67. At running back 69 with the 223rd pick overall, one Raheem Mostert is being drafted now of the Los Angeles Raiders. I heard Pete Carroll say that he's going to split that backfield, and Ashton Genty is going to be sharing with Raheem Mostert. I do not believe Pete Carroll, yet there's an argument to be made for drafting Raheem Mostert at this price. You feel it or fuck it?
I'm feeling it because I think that I believe Pete Carroll. Maybe I'm delusional, but maybe. I believe Pete Carroll just enough that I think there's going to be maybe not a 50-50 split between these two, but I think enough of a split that we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see Ashton Genty run for 1,400 yards as a rookie. I think it's going to be more like 1,000 to 1,100 yards. And even if I'm wrong, if Ashton Genty gets hurt,
There you
Raheem Mostert is still by far the best running back in that room after Ginty. I know that he's old, but he's still very fast. He can catch. He's 2 years removed from an 18 touchdown, top 5 running back season. I think that if they need to go with him for a year, he's still a guy that at this late of a juncture, take a shot. I mean, to me, he's a running back too. We just talked about a guy who's probably going to be running back 4 being drafted ahead of him in Brashard Smith. Hell,
for sure.
Hell, Damian Martinez is running back 3. He's a 7th rounder who might be in a position to have more opportunities, and he's not even remotely being drafted.
On Mostert, I'm going to go ahead and say I don't believe Pete Carroll, because Pete Carroll has done this everywhere he goes. He gets his feature back. I've been doing a little occasional spot on a Vegas radio station. Vinny Bonsignor is one of the people I'm on that program with. He's been covering this team for a number of years, and he's higher than I am on Genty. And I think like 275 to 50 carries would not be is more the desired game plan here. To me, that's what it looks like. And we have seen that with Chip Kelly in his offensive pass. It's led to some really high-end workloads for running backs. Carlos Hyde in San Francisco, who is a nobody. LaShawn McCoy in Philadelphia. So he's gotten the most out of his running backs, giving him heavy workloads. I would expect that, but even if maybe it is possible. Maybe Pete Carroll is lying and telling the truth and reverse lying. We call that telling the truth these days, and saying that so maybe it is true. I think either way, drafting Raheem Mostert at that price, I promised the people, them, Matt, I would never say Zamir White again. I just did. I know I lied. I lied like Pete Carroll does. Zamir White, probably not a threat. Sincere McCormick, probably not a threat.
But no, yeah.
Yeah, Dylan Lobby, great in the off the field drills and whatnot in his short pants and no shoulder pads.
One carry and a fumble, and they banished him.
Right. So I'm with you. I think it costs, we're talking about a price range where anyone with a name that I know is pretty much fair game. Raheem Mostert isn't just a name I know. He's also someone I've talked to on a number of occasions. He seems like a very nice man, surfed as a young man, but also, what does he have, Matt, that Bob Harris loves? What does he have?
He moves his feet really fast.
Very fast. So I'll invest at that price. But I'm not with you on thinking that this is going to be a split. I'm thinking Pete Carroll is blowing smoke about this. This is the history is Pete Carroll picks his guy, sticks with his guy as long as his guy's healthy, but likes to have a really good guy behind the guy for the times that he doesn't have the guy.
Yep.
So
there you go.
We see it all the time. So would it be would I be totally surprised if at some point Zach Charbonnet becomes a Raider? No, I would not be surprised. That would be a total Pete Carroll kind of move. Because why? We saw him do that same move in Seattle, except he drafted him instead of traded for him. So that's Pete Carroll territory. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm with you. I think the price is right. I think we might agree on this one too. Carolina Panthers, Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, is underrated. I just saw him go as the second Carolina tight end off the board in my Scott Fishbowl draft, for which I was very pleased. Almost got a hold of Jatavian Sanders. Do you feel he's underrated, or are you fucking that?
Oh, I'm totally feeling that he's underrated. I mean, if you look at, first of all, he was an early round or early, what was it, day 2 draft pick, early day 3 last year. He was one of the top prospects at the position. He's a good runner after the catch. He tracks the ball well. And if you look at the stretch before he landed on his neck in the Kansas City game, if you look at the 5-6 game stretch, if you extrapolated that, I think it was actually 7 games. If you extrapolate that to a full season, you're looking at close to 700 yards receiving. If you get him 700 yards with an improved Bryce Young who hits him in the red zone for 3 to 5 touchdowns, you're looking at a starter right there. And he's not even remotely being drafted like a starter. So to me, he's an excellent late round option, especially on a team where the receiving core to me seems like they've cast it's like a casting call, really, of who's really going to be the guy. Is it really going to be Tet McMillan I
It's
don't
going to be Adam
know.
Thielen. Everyone
It's
knows
gonna
that.
Adam Thielen. If he gets hurt, then it might be Hunter Renfro for all
Might
we
be,
know.
man. He sounds
Yeah,
like he's doing quite
yeah.
well. Tight end 31 is where he's going. There are a couple tight ends in this range that I really like. Darren Waller's not one of them at tight end 28 already, rising up the ranks. Juwan Johnson, not keen on him. I do like Theo Johnson at tight end 30 with the New York Football Giants. He's a big physical guy, really athletic player last year coming in, had some injury issues. But he and Sanders are two guys that if I miss the tight end train, I will grab onto their cabooses and ride on, especially if you're playing in the Scott Fish Bowl and it's a tight end premium and you're drafting tight ends late and making dart tosses. People are going to be drafting guys ahead of them that have no business going ahead of them. But either of those guys. So I'm with you. Feeling that, Matt Waldman. Jordan James could start this year if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again. Feel it or fuck it.
Totally feeling it. Jordan James, I know that.
It's a lie.
Jordan James is a lie. There we go. No,
I just have Isaac Guerrero shares.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, Isaac Guerrero, I mean, remember,
Could get hurt as
we
well.
saw what he did. He did well last year, but we have to remember that he was probably running back 3, running back 4 when he began the season because you had Jordan Mason in front of him at running back 2. You still had Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor even got looks. So, this is a team that seems like their skill talent gets hurt a lot, which is, I think, is kind of fascinating about the 49ers as good as they are. But James is one of those players that he worked with Bucky Irving last year, was a better between the tackles guy than Irving was. Good contact balance, can catch the ball. One of the 2 best pass protectors in this running back class of rookies in 2025. So Guerrero probably will start the year as the running back too, but don't be surprised if this turns into a committee. And James is someone that could end up usurping enough touches that he winds up being the running back to have if things don't go well for Guerrero, who's a little up and down as a player, but very talented.
I like Guerrero a lot, but I feel like you're paying a little bit of a handcuff premium with him, with McCaffrey coming off the injury. I think if I'm going McCaffrey, I'm riding him naked. Okay, kids, easy now. I'm not handcuffing him, right? And this is the reason why, because I don't want to pay the price for Guerrero, who I think is first in line. Maybe I can get James way later, but I think people are like trying to outsmart me on that and get him there. I'm probably just going with McCaffrey and hoping he holds up. And if he doesn't, I'll have to cobble something else together. But I do think that's a viable strategy, getting James later if you miss out on Guerrero. And for the reason you said, like, Guerrero looked great. He's a great fit for the offense, it seems. Also seems like he isn't really fantastic at staying healthy, or so far that we've seen. Like, and I'm injury agnostic, but I don't want to overpay for a maybe.
Eli Mitchell part 2? Yeah.
Right, 100%. That's exactly right. And it's funny because I was just looking at a mock draft I did, was it a year or 2 years ago, I think, where I did way overpay for Elijah Mitchell as a handcuff, and it did not work out for me at all. There's a receiving core. It's in Kansas City. They keep adding pieces that seem similar. This one, Jaylen Royals, 6 foot, 205 pounds. Are all their receivers like 6 foot, 205 pounds? Mostly.
Unless they're under 6 feet and 170 something and run real fast. Yeah.
Royals, comes in there. It's a pretty crowded receiving room, but he does a lot of things well. He seems like a good fit for an offense that doesn't need anybody to fit right now. What do you think? He could become a fantasy wide receiver 2 this year, Matt Waldman.
I feel it is a sneaky thing to keep an eye out for, and he's someone that you want to take late, definitely as a handcuff to Rashee Rice. Because if you're taking Rashee Rice, even at the discount from the injury, let's remember that it was a little bit more of a difficult injury than what people are talking about. And when you come back from that and you're going to take a beating as basically a running back in space, which is how they use him, how fast is he going to recover from the punishment after he looks like he's at full speed during training camp? If the issue is, like Kirk Cousins, and starts falling apart within like a few weeks, Jaylen Royals might be the guy that they use to take over because he's so good as a runner after the catch. He's physical, he's very fast, he's sudden, and then you also have skills at the catch point to be able to go up and win the football. So Royals could be a sneaky good option late, where if it doesn't work out early, after the first month, you can dump them and find somebody else.
seems reasonable. I have a very angry cat in the house. I hope I don't have to dump him. Let's see. Will Shipley. Like, this is definitely an attack at me. This is coming directly at me. Somebody in this program knows that I've been drafting very late shares of Will Shipley, the Philadelphia running back, behind Saquon Barkley and slightly ahead of A.J. Dillon. I'd like to remind you of that, sir. Will Shipley getting too much buzz, Matt Waldman. And by the way, he's going ahead of the guys we've been talking about, Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter, ahead of Brashard Smith, ahead of Raheem Mostert, and others, Jaleel McLaughlin. The list is long of players he's going ahead of. It's too much, Matt. Is that what you're saying? Feel it or fuck it?
I'm feeling that it's too much. I know. The upside could be good that it could happen. I mean, such a good offensive line. You know that this offense around them, that's great for Shipley. He's a very good receiver. But I think there's a little bias here that goes from, well, let's think of who was on the depth chart last year. Who's still there? Will Shipley. Who just recently got drafted? Will Shipley. A.J. Dillon, oh yeah, he's that slow plotting dude in Green Bay who we don't even remember anything about him. Yeah,
probably really good behind a good offensive line.
Yeah, a guy who was one of the best
downhill.
Yeah, one of the best blockers in his class. He was someone who had to be in a three-headed committee with Jamal Williams, who had more of the power back in the blocking role. And then you had Aaron Jones, who's one of the best backs of the generation right now, who can do it all. And still, A.J. Dillon, when he was healthy, was getting you, decent yardage and touchdowns, both through the air and on the ground. And if you're thinking about, Saquon Barkley gets hurt this year, who do you think's really going to be the between the tackles back? The 212 pounds soaking wet with some bricks in his backside, to weigh down the scale a little bit more.
212 is not that small.
No, not if you put 10 pounds of bricks in there. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. But if Quadzilla is the guy that can finish out games for you, I mean, this is to me, Quadzilla has A.J. Dillon has more opportunities to close out games with Barkley healthy and to keep him fresh, and opportunities to cut into Shipley's time where it becomes more of a 50-50 split.
I feel like I've passed the point where I am now accruing shares of Shipley, not so much because I think A.J. Dillon is an issue, although I'm starting to think that now. Thanks for that, Matt. But also because the price is rising too much. I used to get him in the 20th round.
Yeah.
Right? Like in early best balls prior to the draft or prior to free agency. And so the price has been going up. I'm much less interested. I might be more interested in Jacory Croskey-Merritt. Is he a must-have late-round stash? Field or fuck it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm feeling that. I think he's an Aaron Jones starter kit with a lot of advanced apps that are in the box. They just need to be installed. Whether he knows how to install them this year or not is the big question. But fast, shifty, good vision in terms of like peripheral vision to be able to adjust and create. He, how well he adapts to the NFL scheme and manages within that scheme the way they would like him to is always a question about rookies who have great athletic ability. He dropped in the draft mainly because he's played for 3 different teams and his eligibility was kind of used up by the final year. So he only had a certain number of minutes or quarters or reps that he could play last year, and then he was basically ineligible. I think that's probably why he didn't wind up at Ole Miss after all, because that was originally where they wanted him. And then I think that the eligibility thing became an issue. But otherwise, he probably would have been an earlier pick in a different class. And so definitely there's 2 backs in this draft class who remind me of Aaron Jones. And the other one is Trey Stewart, who's not even remotely getting drafted. And even Kevin O'Connell said he must be reading the RSP because he said he reminds me of Aaron Jones a lot. And they think he can compete with Tyson Chandler for that RB3 spot. So, yeah.
I never caught more than 13 passes in a season, but I mean, you can't catch passes that aren't thrown to you. And he did show good work on the wheel routes and stuff. So he does have that upside. I think Brian Robinson Jr. is a guy that I'm getting a little keener on right now. I think he's locked in and the price has dropped precipitously. It seems for me, I should look it up and see what it is. And by the way, Croskey-Merritt is running back 81, going after that whole list of guys, including A.J. Dillon, that we've been talking about, well after them. Let's see what Robinson's going right now. I've been getting a lot of shares of Austin Eckler just because I think either way, his role remains pretty much unchanged. But Brian Robinson Jr. is going as running back 30 right now. Round 7? Thank you. Yes, I'll have some of that, please. The other running backs going around him, like Tony Pollard, I think his role is less certain. Isaiah Pacheco, 2 picks ahead, I would probably prefer. But even that seems a little risky. Like Brian Robinson Jr. might be a little bit of a safer play. The guys going after him, guys like Tyrone Tracy, I think is pretty ambiguous backfield to me. Maybe you're a little convinced that Tyrone Tracy is the guy. I don't think the Giants are, but maybe you are. But yeah, there's a whole range of guys. He is going ahead of Travis Etienne Jr., who I think Matt and I are both kind of thinking like, he might be underpriced too. And a few other guys that we think are going to start, but we know Brian Robinson Jr. is. But I'm with you. That's a cheap handcuff, sir. Cheap handcuff. All right, Harold Fannin could be the Isaiah Likely of the Browns offense this year. And by that, we mean a guy who's going to come out and quickly score 30 fantasy points and then disappear the rest of the season. Feel it or fuck it.
I would say if that's the case, then I fucked up there on that one. But I would say that no, I would say fuck that then. I would say Harold Fannin could actually be a Sam Laporta-like option for the Browns this year. And that's a fairly bold claim considering they have one David Njoku, and Joe Flacco's throwing his way probably first down, second down, third down, fourth down, and fifth down. If they could invent a fifth down, he might even throw him on seventh down. But here's the thing. They're going to 2 tight ends more often. Their wide receiver core, really is not proven at all.
Cedric Tillman slander being
yes. He's a good slant player, but he needs to expand that route tree a little bit more. Deontay Johnson has to decide that maybe he needs to be ready at all phases of the game, even when he's on the bench, rather than worry about not, ended up being cold and putting up bad tape, after you've already been booted from 2 other teams. So I think that Fannon's a guy who actually, the key thing about elite tight ends is that they can run man-to-man routes, timing routes that break back to the quarterback, that require that good ability to bend and decelerate. And Harold Fannin can do that. Sam Laporta can do that. Travis Kelce can do that. Trey McBride can do it. David Njoku is a high-end linear player, meaning that he can't do that very well. But he's very good at running the crossing routes and seam routes and corner routes where you just, the brakes aren't back to the quarterback and you can just not run people. That's really good, but that gets you at about tight end 5 at most. That doesn't really get you into the top 3 on a regular basis, even though Flacco was every down every time possible. But I think Fannin presents enough there that even as a rookie, I wouldn't be shocked if he shows enough that he winds up being a fantasy option at different times this year. And because they can roll from two tight ends to a 12 personnel looking set to an 11 personnel set and put Fannin in the slot, because I don't think they'd put Njoku in the slot as that second tight end. They'd probably keep him in line as a potential blocker. That Fannin could really end up being the best slot option of the Browns this year. And if I'm wrong, who gives a fuck? He's like 18th
he's wide receiver
round.
38.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. He's so late. He's a guy that you just want to watch and monitor how his camp goes, because if they start getting that kind of buzz, you could wind up with a real bargain.
Yeah, I'm just 2, 4, 5, 12. That's way late. Yeah, I feel like there was about 5 minutes where I thought that maybe David Njoku was the guy who was going to get traded to Miami. I thought, man, I should gather up a fantasy share just so I feel like I look really smart. Didn't work out. Timing didn't work out, and then everything went off the rails. And Darren Waller gave up that illustrious rap career to head to South Beach to vet his talents there. Maybe it's a good move for the rap career.
I think it probably is.
Probably better than his football career, but we'll see. I mean, I like Darren Waller as a player, but I think Harold Fannin was a guy. If there was no David Njoku, we'd all be way more interested in him than we are, and maybe we should be a little more interested. Certainly a dynasty prospect that I want to have on rosters. But here's another one I want to have this year. I want to grab and redraft very, very late. Sean Tucker. He could be the lead back by year's end in Tampa. Feel it or fuck it.
Fuck yes. I mean, I think this, if there's a running back I don't want to leave a draft without, it's this dude. Because the drum beat's already there, laid out since like the combine.
We saw the flash last year. The huge game last year was Saints, enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, speed. He has the best combination of size and speed in the running back room. He is a good receiver, and he's a smart player between the tackles. He's faster than Bucky Irving. He's bigger than Bucky Irving. He's probably a better cutback runner and a little smoother than Rachaad White. Rachaad White basically went on social media late this spring and said, "This is my last year in Tampa." He sees the writing on the wall. Why is that writing on the wall? Well, Todd Bowles basically said during the combine, I believe, we need to get Sean Tucker the ball more. And then before that, GM Jason Licht said, I think Sean Tucker is an NFL caliber starter talent.
I think everyone did, except he had the heart issue, right? Heading out of college, and that put him on the undrafted free agent list, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave him a signing bonus higher than any other running back, maybe the highest of any player that year.
And he wasn't fully back into the mix of things that first season, so it was really a redshirt year, and then people promptly forgot about him until he tore a new one through the Saints defense with closeout carries and looked really good and started to look good in other games in limited time. So as late as you can get Sean Tucker, to me, it's very possible Rachaad White gets cut, or he just leapfrogs White and they just keep White on the bench.
Which, let's just throw this out there. We were talking about these other backs, Jacory Croskey-Merritt at running back 81, going well into the 20th rounds or 20th rounds. Going one running back after him at running back 82 would be Sean Tucker. So there you have it, people. So bargain basement, last round pick, flyer and best ball, whatever, where you don't have to know when he's going to start. I think he's a great play, and also not a horrible dart toss at the end of deeper redraft leagues, where you can just move on if nothing's happening. I would not do that though. I would hold on to him all damn year, thinking I'm gonna be smart enough to start him that one game where he rises up.
Do you remember when everybody was like, "Oh my God, Leonard Fournette needs to be benched. We need to get Rachaad White in there." He had that one closeout game against the Patriots, and everybody was like, "We got to get rid of Fournette." Now we're looking at White, and everybody was like, "We got to give Bucky Irving more touches." Bucky Irving, to me, doesn't look like a high-touch player on a regular basis, if you ask me. I think that even if they got rid of White, that Irving is going to need a compliment, and that compliment is absolutely going to be Tucker in that case.
Ben Baby over at ESPN covers the Cincinnati Bengals. He singled out a player this week we haven't talked a lot about, Jermaine Burton, as the Bengals surprise player. Said this offseason Burton's made all the right moves. He was attentive, engaged throughout spring workouts, earned praise from every person who was asked about him, including offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. Burton has the tools to become a big play option in special situations. Are we overlooking him at our own risk? Matt Waldman, one of the pass heaviest offenses in the NFL. Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nothing's changed from last year in terms of my assessment of him on the field, which was he was the guy out of the, you had this big five of top rookie talent, and Burton was that guy who could sneak in there and wind up being as productive as anybody could have been if he was able to stay mature. Because really, he was in a perfect position this time last year for the Bengals to say, you know what, T. Higgins, we don't need you anymore. We've got Jermaine Burton. You can be our number 2, and then we can put Andre Iosivas at number 3, and T. Higgins, we could trade you, or we could not choose to re-sign you. But I think that Burton, with all the different ways that you could be immature, unprofessional, and inattentive, he did it. He showed it. And that's T. Higgins should be thanking Burton for his new contract, probably. But he's done a 180, and we, at least from early on, and if he can continue to show that he understands what the job is, he's going to be that guy who can be a good wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 for the Bengals. Like Ben Baby said, situational. But the real thing about him is this: if T. Higgins gets hurt, he can take over T. Higgins' role. And unlike Josephus, who's probably more Higgins-like than Burton, if Jamar Chase gets hurt, which none of us want to see, but if that happens, Burton's the only guy who can approximate Jamar Chase in terms of what they would ask Chase to do. He won't get the same level of production, but it'll be good enough to be a top 15 wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, I think like he has the quarterback, he has the offense. The situation works out right. I don't know if anyone's going to be drafting him this year. If you have him in Dynasty, though, you're going to be very happy if you held on to him. And if you're like me, you would never let him go. It'll be 20 years before you realize he's sitting there rotting at the bottom of your roster, and he might turn into something by that time. I think
is that like a McAfee subscription?
Yes, I think so. But also I do think if something happens to Higgins short term, we saw last year Mike Gesicki stepped up. They paid him a ton of money this offseason. And almost like he becomes a de facto I don't want to say wide receiver 2, but he moves up in the rotation. He drew a hell of a lot of targets and stuff. So we'll see. Burton has some work to do, but it sounds like he's doing it, and good on him. Jimmy Horn is getting too much early buzz. Feel it or fuck it.
I'm kind of saying fuck that. I think that he's someone you want to keep an eye on, mainly because they don't have anybody else like him on the field, which is he probably can be a big play slot. He could probably also play flanker and work outside and win deep. The big question is how good is he going to be really with reading coverage and being on the same page with Young, and also winning man-to-man against top corners, which is what he'll have to do to really be an impactful player. So we'll see as training camp moves on, but now that we see that he's healthy enough, the hamstring injury that derailed him later on the spring seems to be good enough that he's practicing with Bryce Young now. I'd keep an eye on him. I mean, Thomas Davis, great linebacker, great player. He talked about Jimmy Horn as being like a Tyreek Hill type of factor for this team. Now, if Thomas Davis was a cornerback, I'd feel a little bit better about that. But I do remember way back in the day watching the University of Georgia, and there was this hard-hitting safety who played deep by the name of Thomas Davis, and they just fattened his ass up and played him at linebacker, and he was still one of the hardest-hitting motherfuckers you'd ever see from a linebacker who was converted as safety. He wasn't, Urlacher was great, but Thomas Davis could bring the bricks, and he was still in a converted safety.
I say Jimmy Horn can't beat out Hunter Renfrow. Feel that, Matt Waldman.
Yeah, but can he beat out any of the flankers they have, and Xavier Legette, who can't catch, and Jordan,
but he talks cool,
and Jalen Coker, who can catch, but can he get deep? I don't know.
I think this is one we both want to know the answer to. Jalen Milroe, will he start in Seattle this year? Feel it or fuck it.
Oh, fuck, I hope not. But
I hope so. I want to see it. I have shares of so I'll just say this. He went in the Scott Fishbowl the round I was going to take him as kind of just a dart toss kind of play, because if something happens, God forbid, to Sam Darnold, or Sam Darnold just turns back into Sam Darnold. Hell,
sure.
That's entirely possible too. I would love to see him go, and we all know why, but I'd like you to tell us more explicitly why we might like to see that.
Well, I mean, obviously, he's got the legs of Matt Forte. He can run better than pretty much everyone said who I think has a decent opinion about what they've seen in the NFL, that Milroe might be the best running quarterback since Lamar Jackson was drafted, and maybe certainly better than what even Michael Vick had to offer in his prime. But in addition to that, he's an underrated pocket player who manipulates the field really well when he understands what's going on the field. And I think that's the big question is, in the NFL, he's going to be dealing with more coverage disguises that may prove a little bit more difficult. But he's a massively good student of the game, and so I think that he will continue to grow and grow fast. If you say a year or two is fast, I think he could be a great option for that Jordan Love plan, but actually deliver even better than Jordan Love. I think he could be much better than Jordan Love, but I would not like to see him rushed into the situation this year. But it looks like ESPN, at least according to them, they have him second on the depth chart ahead of Drew Lock, and they plan to use him situationally, probably in red zone looks. I like that they're going to use him situationally. I just hope that if Sam Darnold falters, that they continue to use him situationally. Maybe just give him a few more situations, but still use Drew Lock, because I think that it would be best for his development and really any quarterback's development.
What do I care about his development? I care about my fantasy fortune,
I
sir.
do too. I care about him too. That's why I drafted him in Dynasty. But I'd rather wait a year or two, because then I don't feel like I wasted a third or fourth round pick on somebody who could give me first round return.
The tight end train that left the station last week, as I mentioned earlier, Jonnu Smith, traded to the Steelers of Pittsburgh. This was the day after I took Pat Freiermuth in the Scott Fishbowl, thinking I had landed an amazing steal. Just thinking, man, I got him way late in the tight end premium league. I am the happiest man alive. The next day they traded for Jonnu Smith, and I was a little disappointed at first, but I'm starting to think I might be overplaying those fears. Are you with me? Feel it or fuck it. Pat Freiermuth is not as doomed as people think.
I feel it. I think that people look at Jonnu Smith and there's this weird, there's this Arthur Smith hate that goes around.
Yes,
and some of that's
what it
earned,
is.
obviously. And so they go, oh, Arthur Smith traded for Jonnu Smith because he didn't use him right in Atlanta, and now he had a career year, and now he wants him here. And you're like, okay, sorry, that's stupid as fuck, okay? What really happened here is that Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts split production, and they did a good job of doing that. They each had a role. Kyle Pitts is supposed to be the contested catch, up the seam, up the boundary option, who can win in that fashion. Whereas Jonnu Smith doesn't quite have that caliber of hands. He's better as the underneath red zone guy, the guy in the flats, the guy running crossing routes, who gets the ball on the move and runs through people. That's what he does really well. And that was the plan. That's how Arthur Smith implemented it. It worked really well. And then he went to Miami, and Miami had receivers injured, quarterbacks injured. Guess what, young quarterbacks, who do they like to target? The tight end.
Might be the tight end.
Jonnu Smith pretty much had a career year. Pat Freiermuth is the best contested catch player on that roster. Period. End of story. Not DK Metcalf, not Calvin Austin, not Roman Wilson or Robert Woods, definitely not Darnell Washington, not Jonnu Smith. Pat fucking Freiermuth. He's not super fast. He's Slowkowski, okay? He's definitely that. But he can work up the seam. He's very good in the red zone, in the end zone. He gets thrown open really well. It's just that, who throws guys open in Pittsburgh well? Well, it was Ben Roethlisberger back in the day. Russell Wilson threw 5 touchdowns to Freiermuth. And even before that, Justin Fields likes the tight end and was targeting him pretty well too. All I think is that this limits their need for an extra wide receiver.
Right.
They can play 2 tight ends, run the ball. They can split one of those guys out. That's probably going to be Smith because of his yak skills. And Freiermuth is still going to be that guy who winds up getting 8 to 10 touchdowns. He just won't be the guy who gets you 70 catches this year. He's probably going to be a 50 catch guy, 500 to 600 yards, and 8 to 10 touchdowns, which then propels him into fantasy starter value.
I think like Jonnu Smith is a chess piece, right? And last year, Mike McDaniels had to play chess. All his favorite checkers got broke or something wasn't working right, so he had to create some mismatches. And Jonnu Smith is great at being used to create mismatches. His size, speed, Arthur Smith has not demonstrated a great ability to do that. I mean, Jonnu Smith came on the radar in Tennessee under Smith, but when he had him in Atlanta, he didn't do a damn thing with him. I think his best year in Atlanta was a tight end 22, right? So it's not like Arthur Smith it's not like he Cordero Pattersoned him and turned him into some major deal that we weren't expecting. He kind of didn't do a damn thing with him. So we'll see. Like, I think both of them are like, that's paint a rosy picture. Neither of them are as valuable as they were the day before this trade,
sure,
for our purposes. But also, it's not like it's a lost cause. And I'm still like, I'm getting over the fact that I drafted Freiermuth the day before. I think his tight end premium numbers might be good enough for me for the reasons Matt said. But I am a little disappointed that Fielder are fucking favorite. Long time, Calvin Austin III might be diminished. But were we maybe too quick to give him the hook when this deal came about?
Yeah, fuck that, Bob. I don't know how you can, like, I listened to you last week when you were talking about that. Oh, well, he's gone now. And then I was just like, you're going to take our flagship piece of our show and just dump him in the river. And I was like thinking, wait a minute, let me just take a look at this real quick, because I'm not sure I feel the same way about that. Of course, I can be a bit on the bias side here. But looking at it from my perspective, here's the deal. Aaron Rodgers, if you think he can throw for 4,000 yards, which he was, like 103 yards away from that last year with the fucking Jets, with Brick Johnson running the show, I think he can throw for...
I think you need to dial back on Brick a little bit, man. He plays Madden. He knows his stuff. Why don't you fucking chill, man?
He's Jeffrey Baratheon. That's what he is. So, yeah, but, 4,100 yards, 32 touchdowns. I think that's what Aaron Rodgers can do. Yeah, he is. Fucking Jeffrey Baratheon in this particular deal.
I will send a dragon after you, sir. Dracarius!
Yeah, and Woody is definitely not Tyrion Lannister, that's for sure. He's he's more like drunk Robert Baratheon. But yeah, you look at this unit, and if Aaron Rodgers throws for 4,100 yards, somewhere around there, 30 to 32 touchdowns, which that's not top 15 quarterback numbers nowadays, okay? He's still outside the top 15 with that. Even if he does that, and you spread it out, DK Metcalf's never had more than 120 targets, really, other than one big year. He's more of a guy who's going to get you around 100 to 120. A lot of quick hitting routes they want to throw to him. So is he necessarily going to be like Devontae Adams Jr.? I don't think so. Robert Woods is pretty old and banged up. Has been banged up. I don't think he's going to beat out Calvin Austin. Nobody's talked about Roman Wilson, which basically tells you that Roman Wilson probably won't be with the Steelers in a year or two if he doesn't figure it out. And he had a lot to figure out. Scotty Miller, Ben Skoranek, I don't think so. So it's, basically your guys who are getting targets are the 120 from Metcalf, and I bet you get 80 targets from Calvin Austin, and you still get like 50 to 70 targets for Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. And if you do that, Austin at 80 targets, he converts 60% of them. You're looking at 48 to 50. If he's the main deep threat, you're looking at about 750 to 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's not unbelievable, but it's wide receiver 3 value at a guy who is probably sinking faster than, he's sinking faster than Pat Freiermuth at this point. So no, I still believe, and I'm still representing this show. I don't know what you're doing, Bob, but
I'm not being loyal to the brand. I'm off brand.
You're off
I feel
brand.
this big.
If I get a Steelers jersey one day and I don't fucking have my dog tear it to shreds,
I can just see the expo.
It will be
all the listeners who are going to be coming after me for not backing Calvin Austin III. Fuck you, Bob Harris.
If Calvin Austin III gets 1,000 yards, I'm buying a Steelers jersey with Calvin Austin on it, and I will come to the Fantasy Expo and wear it in Cleveland, Ohio.
All right, let's call it a day here. Matt Waldman, this is another sterling episode of Fielder Puck. You can catch us here every Monday. Training camps will be starting, not next week, but we're not coming back next week, are we? We're going to take a week off.
No, Pop's turning 80 in August, so I got to go wish him a happy birthday.
There's no Wally pipping you, so I'm not even going to try. I'll take a day off and enjoy myself, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And there will be training camps on. I think the first the teams in the Hall of Fame game will be starting up early, like this 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. So we'll be back and we'll start talking about actual football. It'll be horrifying and joyful and delightful all at the same time.
Yeah, Ollie Gordon, is he playing in that? Because he could be the Zamir White of this.
Here we go. We go. It's starting already. Fuck this. All right, everybody, that's it for us. Goodbye, Matt. Love you.
Goodbye. Love you.